Welcome, everybody, to Pinstripe Chronicles, the place to go for the most entertaining take on Yankees. I'm Tats. I'm here with Rob and Donald, and it was just the homestand couldn't have been any better. Sweeps, tremendous pitching, good hit, blowout game, one entertaining game like we saw yesterday. Clutch hits in the late innings to highlight the pitching that we did have, shutting everybody down. Angels lineup is they're not as much as they're in a tailspin right now. They do have a solid hitting team, and so to shut that team down really just set the tone going to the Detroit series. But the pitching itself really needs to be even more acknowledged. And I feel like that's really the highlight of every show that we do is how tremendous the pitching has been. But when you have back-to-back games where your pitchers are flirting with perfect games, not just no hitters, but perfect games, you got to keep the moment. You got to keep the recognition going. And between Cole and Tyone, that was just tremendous to see. It was fun to watch. I was at the Tyone game in the Bronx, and just the atmosphere in the stadium was just electric. By the fifth inning, in the beginning of innings, it was kind of like, all right, just slow pace, pitches dull, yeah. And then once you started realizing that there was something going on, you almost had like that quiet whisper where everybody wanted to get excited, but nobody wanted to open their mouth. Because nobody wants to be that guy that's the jinx. And I looked over at my son, and I'm like, don't look at me, don't talk to me. Just look at the field. Because if we have a conversation, something goes wrong, it's going to be our fault. So, it really was. And then just the stadium just was really electric. Rizzo got that big hit. And, if you go on our Instagram page, you'll see the live video of just how the crowd reacted. It was amazing. But when you have the pitching that you had, you don't need the offense to be – you don't need the whole lineup at their peak. You just need one or two guys to come up with a clutch hit because the runs are given – the pitchers are giving runs at really at a minimum right now. I think yesterday was the first time that they pretty much, put up 4. It's been less than that throughout the homestand, shutouts and everything in between. So – What do you contribute to the pitchers being able to stay as tight and consistent as they have been? Because this is something that's not supposed to happen.
It's something that's never happened. This is probably the best starting 5 I've seen in a very, very long time. It might be better than what we had in the 90s, just as a group.
Yeah.
Because even in the 90s, we had like 3 or 4 really good starters, and then there was Hideki Arabu, and you weren't getting a necessarily great 5th starter. But all 5 of our guys are like dealing, and it's weird because we're seeing things that have never, like Nestor Cortez is doing things that have never been done before in this team's history. And this team goes back a very long time. Bobby Tats has seen it all. And Nestor Cortez is doing things that we have never seen done in a Yankee uniform. And he wasn't even really the highlight of the homestand because of how good Cole and Tyone were. And then if not for a ball that got off of the infielder's glove, Sevy would have been flirting with the perfect game or a no-hitter. It's incredible. And Montgomery had the worst start out of the last turn, and he wasn't even that bad yesterday. So, we're seeing something that is just special, and it's something that we've been saying all year, just enjoy it because baseball is baseball. Someone is going to have maybe a bad start or two in back-to-back games, and it shouldn't deter from what we've seen thus far because we had so many question marks going into the season about this rotation. Like, would Tyone be healthy? Would Sevy be healthy? What kind of version of himself would he be? Is Cortez going to be anything close to what he was last year? And they have passed every single test with flying colors. And a lot of it goes to the pitchers themselves, but what they're teaching them in Matt Blake's pitching lab, it needs to be held top secret. And it better not spill to anybody else in the league because this is something special that we're seeing. And yeah, we're getting every single game, we're getting a chance to win, even if we don't have a good offensive day. You can put up 2 runs, 3 runs, and be like, that's enough. We don't want to keep doing that. But with the pitching we're getting right now, you can survive with the offense being kind of a seesaw, whether they're really good or whether they're not so good. So I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I love what I'm seeing, and keep it rolling because we're winning games again. We're on a good winning streak, and we got a pretty tough slate of games coming up. So let's just keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, six in a row. Pretty much we swept the homestand. That's obvious. Then it's also the division. The lead is increasing. Toronto lost yesterday, so now the division lead is 7.5 games. And this is not what we expected going into the year, which is why what Rob said needs to be highlighted. This is something special that we're watching this year. The expectations were this was not expected at all. We expected to be competitive, but when you reach the dominant category of adjectives to use, then now you have to step back and just really just admire what this club is doing. And they're playing as a team. Nobody's trying to outdo somebody else. They're all working together. And that's also something you don't usually see. Usually you have that one star that just wants to be, just let me put up my numbers, collect my check and leave me alone. And you don't have that here. Everybody's got each other's back. So this really is something special going on this year. And, you can only hope that it's going to be more consistent as the year goes on, even with those few hiccups, like you were saying. The starter's going to have a bad outing. The offense is going to have issues again. That's just how baseball is. Baseball can make you feel like you're untouchable, and then it can make it can humble you just as quick. So, Donald, what's your opinion on the homestand we had?
Tyon, man. I watched the Tyon game. That was fun. It was a blast. He was awesome. Mixing his pitches, his location, as always. And I'm really happy that Rizzo came through with a clutch pinch hit that drove in the winning run. You could see with Tyon in the top step of the dugout, and he was cheering, and everyone's got each other's back, as you say. And yeah, the rest of the weekend they just did their business, man. I mean, the pitching rotation is insane. I can't even get my mind around how good the pitching rotation is. Garrett Cole, Sevy, Tyon, and Nasty Nestor. Nasty Nestor is probably the best pitcher in the American League. We're probably going to have minimum 2 guys, probably 3 starters. There's a good chance we have 3 starters in the All-Star game. We could be looking at probably Tyon, Garrett Cole, and Cortez starting the All-Star, being involved in the All-Star game. I can't see how they wouldn't at this stage, And then it looks like we've kind of gravitated towards Holmes being the closer now. And although he made things very exciting a couple of days ago, he's just been locked down. He's been fantastic. So he's probably going to be an all-star as well. So you're looking at a hell of a team. It really is. The pitching rotation is absolutely insane.
That's a good point, because that's something that really has not been getting the recognition outside of the Yankee fan base, because we watch all the games, we see it. And that's when you lost Green, Loizaga, and Chapman, as bad as Chapman was pitching at the time. This bullpen didn't miss a beat. The guys that were behind them to step into those roles stepped in and just took control. With Castro, he's hit or miss, but he's not letting games get away. The tag team between Michael King and Clay Holmes has just been, they're untouchable. It's almost like there's nothing that's going to stop this team. There's always somebody else that's good. All right, it's not my role. I'm not comfortable. No, they're like, all right, if that's where you want me, I got you. So the bullpen has really stepped up and, not let the injuries to the core players really set back those bullpen innings. So that's something else that needs a lot of recognition. Rob, what do you think?
I don't know if Donald was finished with what he was trying to say. Do you want to finish your point, Donald, or are you good?
Go on, you go, Rob. It's cool, bro.
All right. No, the bullpen has been fine. I was very happy to see Banuelos finally get a chance because at one point he was a top prospect for us, and then injuries derailed his career. But he pitched fine in those the inning that he threw. I think it was one inning. I don't remember exactly, but he looked fine. So if he can become a weapon for us, because he had a really good spring and he's been pitching well in the minors, so there's a weapon. Can't forget that we just signed Shane Green, and he throws a sinker, he throws a cutter. Matt Blake loves those pitches, so I kind of want to see what he does with him. So we have guys that we can go to if need be. I still think we should go out and get a bullpen arm just to be safe because we don't know when Loiza's coming back, and he was bad before the injury. You can't rely on Aroldis Chapman. They should literally just chuck him out of the building when he's healthy and say, get out of here. We don't want you anymore because we're better off without him. And obviously Chad Green's out for the rest of the year. So, I mean, we could still get Herman back. That's something that's been mentioned before on the show by Chris when he was with us. And Britton could be back late season. So we do have, but who knows what you're going to get out of them. But we have arms that we can rely on right now until we get a little more healthy in the bullpen. But it's been fine. Castro was a little off yesterday. So was Clark Schmidt to a degree. But Wandy looked good. I think they need to start using him more in high leverage situations because he is proven last year and again this year he can get it done in those late innings.
Handle it, yeah.
Yeah. Michael King looked the best he's looked in about a couple of weeks yesterday. The last two games he looked untouchable, and Clay Holmes didn't even have to pitch yesterday, but he had that rough game, still got the save, and then the next day he went out there and just looked like he forgot all about it and was unhittable again, just throwing frisbees. So yeah, the bullpen's doing its job. It's picking up the starting pitching. That's been outstanding. So, and we're winning games. You know, that's the big thing. If we were losing these games because the offense couldn't score one or two runs, this would be just like last year because the pitching was still fine last year. But now we're winning these games that are low scoring. So, hey, whatever they're doing, it's working, man. It's a different atmosphere. The stadium, like you said, Sunday, that felt like a playoff game. Like when was it kind of Falefa that saved the perfect game earlier? The stadium erupted like we just won the World Series. You know, like that was awesome. And Rizzo getting that hit, the stadium was shaking. Like this is a June baseball game and the stadium's shaking like it's October. Fans are into it. And this is what we were talking about. When you win, they'll show up. The fans will be interested. Last year, they would sell out games and no one would make a peep. No one would make a sound because they didn't care. It sounded like a library because the team was so bad. But now, when you win, everyone's going to be invested in every pitch. And that's what you want to see. The team, it's a team because all five starting pitchers, they're sitting in the dugout looking at the iPad together. Cole may not pitch for a week and he'll still be like, hey, can I learn something from you? They're all trying to pick up off one another. And that's what you want to see out of a rotation. Everybody's learning and everybody's just trying to get better every single minute of every game. And it's different. And maybe it was the coaching changes because all of a sudden we had all these new coaches and we're like, what's he going to bring? What's this guy going to do? What's this guy going to do? And Aaron Boone's managing and he's managing well. Yep. And it's weird. Right? It's weird because there's so many things. Like even Aaron Hicks had an RBI the other day. So I had to look outside. I'm like, are we in the upside down from Stranger Things? But then the next day he pops out with the base runner on second against as usual. But I don't want to be negative right now, so I'll stop talking about him. But yeah, we're winning games. We're having fun. And we got the Twins coming up. That'll be a good series. And then we got the Cubs, who have been pretty meh this year. So, look, we just got to keep winning games and keep building that lead because there is going to be a point in a couple of weeks where we got to play Tampa, Toronto, Tampa, and Houston. So things are going to get interesting. And we got to win these games to get ready for that really tough stretch.
So Garrett Cole's 5-1 with a 2.78.
Yeah.
We got Tyon, who is 6-1 with a 2.30 ERA. Severino was he 4-1 with a 2.95. Just double check here. He is 4-1 with 295 exactly. And Clay Holmes, his ERA is 0.34 with 8 saves and 4 wins. Um, and then you get to Nestor Cortez, who's just ridiculous. He's 5-1 with a 150 ERA. Jordan Montgomery is by far our worst starter, and he is got a beautiful 3.02 ERA, but just the one win. So you look at the pitching rotation. I mean, as Rob says, man, this you go through the 90s. We still had Arabu on the line, on the mound every 5 days. You didn't really know what you were going to get from him. Most of the time, not great. But you had obviously Wells and Clemens and Pettit and the big names and El Duque. But this year, all 5 starters are giving you quality starts every single time out. That's crazy, especially considering we're in the modern era now where starting pitching kind of being de-emphasized. And this starting rotation is bringing it back because each guy is giving you 7 innings, 6 innings in his worst start, 7 innings most of the time. You got guys that are pitching almost perfect games. We've seen almost a no-hitter. We've seen a bunch of perfect game attempts already. Already, man. We're already in it's only started June. So it's really amazing that we're seeing this, man, because it's like a 90s pitching rotation in the early and now when we're in 2022. And as I say, Tampa Bay tried to introduce the opener and all these annoying bullpen games, but this Yankee team has brought it back to the old school. And I'm a big starting pitching advocate. I've always been advocating for starting pitching. If you get a starter pitcher that's going to give you 7 innings of quality baseball, the game is very, very short after that. If he only gives you 7 innings of 1-run ball, and you only have 1 setup man, 1 closer, that's all you need, and you've got the win. That's how good a starting pitcher and how vital a starting pitching is. Other than constantly rotating a bunch of bullpen arms, this is the way to go, man. And I'm really glad we brought it back. It's going to be a fun battle to see who's going to end up being the best pitcher. It looks like it's going to be Cortez by a mile, but Garrett Cole and Taillon and Sevy are right there, man. I mean, Taillon, 230 ERA. Who would have imagined that when he first came here? And he had a 4.48 ERA for most of his starts last year. He's a different pitcher this year. They're all different pitchers this year. It's a fun year, man. It's all about the starting pitching.
And then the crazy thing.
Aaron
I'm
Judge.
sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say one more thing about the pitching. What was Robbie Ray's ERA last year? It was like a shade over 3, right? And he won the Cy Young.
Yeah.
Our worst starter is just a shade over 3. So, technically, all 5 of our starters should be the Cy Young Award winner. They all be in contention for it.
They should all be in the contention, yeah.
And if you continue at this pace, we could have 4 or 5 starters be in that conversation. Like Cortez is going to be in the conversation. Cole will probably be in the conversation. Taillon should be right now. And that's incredible. I mean, we're 2 months in, so again, it's still technically early, but no one imagined this. We're on one of the best starts in franchise history, and the pitching is carrying us, and we're getting an MVP caliber year from our best hitter, and we're getting multiple Cy Young caliber years from our best pitchers. You couldn't have asked for more than this, and that will lead us to the captain himself, the MVP, number 99, Aaron Judge.
Mm-hmm. Aaron Judge, is he on pace for, is it 64 home runs last time I checked?
It's a number that we haven't seen in a long time. And with Judge, damn, there's really nothing to say. He's on a different world this year.
Yeah, he's on pace for 64 home runs. 64 home runs on pace for. He's just a machine, man.
That's what it is. If this is how he's going to play in contract years, just give him a 1-year contract every year and say, all right, let's see how you do this year. We'll give you another one. You know,
It's wild what he's doing.
You're onto something. Pay him $40 million a year and be like, you want more next year? Go do it again. He's like, all right, I'll give him 45. Just bump it up
yeah,
$5
give him a
million.
10-year contract with a team option every year. But no, it's that's the best thing about this season overall, especially with Judge, is the fans are just having fun. We're making jokes. We're really able to just enjoy the game of baseball the way it's supposed to be enjoyed, and in the best way that the Yankees can. Power hitting, power pitching, solid defense. Right now, they have that three-headed monster pretty much locked up, and Judge is at the forefront of it. And then right next to him is Cortez. The two of them really have led the way and set the tone for the year of what their roles are going to be, and everybody else doesn't want to disappoint the guy in front of them. So then they're putting their best effort, and Judge, put that C on his chest. That's it. Judge is the captain. He's involved with everything.
He's the best example of a modern day captain. I mean, again, he just keeps proving it every single day. He's coming up with, even if he's drawing a walk, and it's going to get to a point where pitchers stop pitching to him. And that's why having Stanton back is so important, and having Donaldson back, because now if Rizzo starts hitting the way he did in April, you can't pitch around Aaron Judge because he's behind him. And then behind him is Stanton. And then behind him is Torres, who's back to the way he was hitting in 2019. And then Donaldson's always a threat anytime he comes up. And dare I say, if he's hitting in the 9-hole and just hits a home run every so often like we want him to, Joey Gallo is still going to make a pitcher at least think, I still got to deal with him. As long as the bane of my existence is not in the damn lineup every day, I think this is the best lineup we could put out there, and even he's going to end up still playing. I can't not bring him up. I'm sorry, but LeMahieu, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton being back, he'll DH for a little bit until he can play the field again. But Donaldson being back is huge. Torres hitting the way he is hitting. Trevino's, we're not even talking about the way he's been hitting. The guy's been an absolute machine. IKF is doing fine. He's doing just what he did last year. He's on pace for a very similar season. I mean, everything's working. You can survive with one guy if that's Gallo being the kind of the black sheep of the group. But I mean, it's a damn good lineup. They're hitting, they're scoring, they're getting big hits when they have to. Anyone could be the hero. Yesterday it was Gallo to tie it, and then it was Donaldson to win it with the sac fly. Rizzo was base running. Who would have thought of all the people to get the base running award for the day? It'd be Anthony Rizzo. Stealing second, moving to third, even though he doesn't run very fast. And then it's crazy. Everybody's contributing, and it doesn't matter who it is. Anybody can be the hero on this team, and that's a really, except for Aaron Hicks, but it's a really fun.
That's so true.
It's a really fun time, and it's being led by Aaron Judge. Lead by example, and he is leading by example. The guy is on pace for 64, right?
Yeah,
that was a number. We haven't seen that since Maris, so and that's insane. That's insane, and we haven't seen it. Well, we haven't seen it since Judge in 2017. So
yeah,
he's outpacing himself, which he should have won the MVP that year. So this will be his second.
I guess he's not being denied a recognition at all. He's making sure that he stays in the front of everybody's mind. He wants that payday, and he said, if this is what it takes for him to do it. Yeah, like I joked around, just give him 1-year contracts. Because this is what we were waiting for from him. But you brought up Rizzo, and I thought it was really funny how everybody kept saying he had a phenomenal April. He really, right out of the gate, he was a huge contributor to wins. Then in May, it was like, where did he go? And it's almost funny how as soon as the calendar flipped to June, it's like, oh, okay, let me play baseball again. So You know, it was, I think Rizzo's, out of the slump. You know, when I was at the game, for the night game of the doubleheader on the second, and you're looking at the lineup, and they have the bases loaded, and up comes you have Gallo and Hicks back to back. I'm going, yeah, this isn't gonna work. And then the two of them get out. Yeah, I think it was Higgy was on deck, and they pulled him back, and they put Rizzo in the pinch hit for Higgy. And I'm like, all right, he's on a cold streak, but maybe this is the pressure. This is a situation where he'll be able to produce. And he came through with that hit, and just let me tell you, you talking about that stadium shaking? That stadium was shaking. It was like the old stadium at that point.
You got to give us your little experience of the game and everything.
It was, the crowd was amazing. It really was. There were a few people from Twitter we were trying to meet up, but it just never happened. But that's all right. Everybody, we were in different areas of the ballpark, and you go to get a soda or a drink, and everybody's interacting with everybody. It wasn't like everybody was just staying with their own little groups, and all the conversations were positive. It was if you brought up a player, of the pitching staff, and you're like, oh no, so and so is no. Everybody was like, no, I could see how you could see that he's better than this guy. It was a very, very fan friendly. Everybody was getting along. Everybody was having a good time. It was the crowd atmosphere was what you remember, what I remember from the '90s. Like that's how far back you have to go to have that kind of that family vibe where all the fans were just, it was almost like everybody was in one big group that went to the game.
Wow.
And definitely. It's definitely how it felt. Everybody's cheering on with each other, at certain points in the game. Every time Tyone would get an out, the whole place was just electric. And it's Yankee Stadium's Yankee Stadium. And it's, no matter how many times you go, whether you go every game or you go a few times a year, or you're only able to go to a game when you're in New York, when you're traveling. When you first walk up and you see that field, it's really a breathtaking feeling. You can't get used.
It's true. It is.
Don't get used to that view, and that's pretty much that was the game.
I agree. It is breathtaking. That
very family, very friendly atmosphere. And at the end of the game, everybody's high fiving with everybody. No arguing. No, your favorite player sucks, and no, well, what are you doing with a name on your jersey? Everybody was just having a good time. And that's something that I think. I think the pandemic kind of caused that, because everybody's just happy to be back at the stadium, and there's still some people is just making their way back to the stadium from the pandemic. Like that was my first game back since the pandemic, and it was kind of like, all right, this is awesome. This is it was almost like you were going back for the first time again. So I had a phenomenal experience. My son and my daughter-in-law, were with me. They took me to the game, and the three of us, we had a great time. Everybody was just, at one point, the funny thing is, we didn't realize that because we were in section 232 by left field, and we didn't realize, because I haven't been there in so long, that there was the 232A, 232B. So we ended up sitting in somebody else's seats. So, and when they came up, they were like, oh, I think we're in the wrong seats. We're like, all right. So we're checking. We're like, oh, our bad. They're like, no problem. Like it wasn't like, hey, you're in my fucking seat. Oh, like there was really no animosity. It was like, these are the seats we paid for. All right, no problem. We moved along, shook hands. There was no animosity, no attitude. And these were young kids. And I'm waiting for somebody to make a stupid comment. And they were just like, no, enjoy the game. It's just a misunderstanding. So that really was like, all right, that's kind of how everybody was. Nobody wanted any trouble. They just wanted to enjoy the game.
That's good to hear because we know that Yankee fans can sometimes they can get unnecessarily stupid. But you're right about every time you see that field, because I've only been to the new stadium once because I'm living here in Florida. It sucks, but I remember the old stadium as a kid, and seeing the new one for the first time. It's like you're going to see a baseball game for the first time, because I would always just see Marlins games, and I hated their old stadium. Their new one's kind of nice, but you don't get that feeling going to a Marlins game and seeing like 6 people sitting in the stands. But when you go to a Yankee game and you're just seeing everybody, it's like, oh, there's the judges' chambers. Oh, look, it's the facade. And then you're looking at in the main hall, and there's all the legends. It reminds you of what this team's history is. And that's why we're so freaking passionate about getting another one, because we know that we want to add 28. And that's why we're so happy about what this team is doing, because we have a legitimate shot to be there at the end of the season because of the way they're playing right now, because they haven't done this since 09, really. Haven't had a start like this since 09. And I want 28. Donald wants 28. Bobby Tats wants 28, even though he's seen all 27. And the fans want 28. And we're starting to get that feeling like this. And again, I know it's still early. A lot can change, but we haven't had this sense of, hey, there's a real shot at this point in the season since 09, 2010, even in that era of, the few years that we had that, what could have been a dynasty had they not screwed the team up after 09. But it's special right now. And the fans feel that because they're hanging on every single pitch like it matters. Last year it didn't matter. Even though they were a playoff team, it's just like, who cares? That was the whole vibe last year. Like, nobody cared. It sounded like a library. Now you got people cheering for a 5th inning strikeout we just won, and we just won the pennant. So that's a special feeling, and I love hearing the crowd roar, because it reminds me that we're doing something special this year, and if we keep going, we'll be there when it matters. And that's what I want to see, and that's what we all want to see. Go get it. And if you have to make some necessary changes, like getting rid of Aaron Hicks, go ahead and do it and make this team better. Yeah, it's special. And so I'm glad you had that experience at the stadium, because it does remind you of what this team can be when it's all said and done this year.
Well said.
Yeah, no, it really. And the other factor that I didn't mention, because it's really strange when you think about it. That stadium opened up in 09. This was the first game that I've been to that they have won. So I finally saw a win at the new Yankee Stadium. And it only took how many years?
That's good.
So that was, that also was really cool. So, but I was joking around with my daughter-in-law. I says, I guess that you're the luck charm. So I'm gonna have to take her everywhere I go now. So, but no, it was, when you see that, Rizzo, like I said before, when Rizzo came up to the plate, and it was, everybody was cheering, but everybody was just kind of like on the edge of their seat. Is this the moment that Rizzo, comes out of the slump, and puts together a good at bat? And that's exactly. It was almost like we all willed it to happen, and it did. It was just really, I threw my hands behind me to the people sitting, and it was everybody, it's high fives all over the place. Everybody was just, like I said, it was just one big, almost like the whole stadium came as one big group. And that's something that you don't expect to happen. And also the way that the fans showed up, because it was the weather was very iffy that day. Thursday, the weather was very iffy. And the first couple of innings, it's like, I guess, the rain kind of scared everybody away, because it was pouring. Driving to the stadium, you couldn't see in front of you. The rain was coming down so hard. And it was, they're going to play this game. So, I'm downloading every weather app I could think of, tracking the storm as best I could. I probably have about 15 weather apps now. Because you don't want to pay for the parking you can't get reimbursed for and then have it rain out or postponed. I would say between like the third and the fourth inning, that stadium filled up quick. That stadium was packed. It was almost like they were waiting. Once they realized the weather wasn't going to hit, they all raced to the stadium. And that's also a testament to how this team is playing. Last year, they might have been like, all right, we'll cut our losses. I'm not rushing to the stadium. This year, they're rushing. They're rushing to get to the games when the games are being played. And that goes to how well this team is playing altogether.
Absolutely.
We do have a series coming up with Minnesota. Today they get an off day, and Minnesota starts tomorrow. So we'll be breaking that down tomorrow morning. Also, we will be getting into the whole situation with Andujar. We just wanted to go over review the homestand, talk about the game that I was at. But Andujar is going to get a lot of attention tomorrow. We promise you that. Because there's a lot of mixed feelings about the whole situation, about him being sent down and requesting a trade. So we're going to break that down for you tomorrow. So make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when we do have the videos up. Check us out also on sportname.com/player. Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Wear your pinstripes of pride and play hard.